Hello again, this is the Mushroom Wizard, and I've brought another presentation to you guys. This one is going to deal with mushroom identification. So you've gone out into the forest and you've gone mushroom picking. You have something in your hands. What is it? How do you start learning how to tell what one of possibly several thousand Saskatchewan mushrooms you're looking at? Well, let's talk about that. The first place to go is always the classic, and that's a good mushroom book. Now, I often see the question online, what book should I use? What's the best book for determining which species of Saskatchewan mushroom I'm looking at? And I'll go through some guidelines for you, and then I'll go through a bit of bad news for you as well. So, first off, you want something that is published as recently as possible. Okay, so if you found a book from the 1940s in a used bookstore or from the 1960s in your grandmother's attic, chances are it's not going to help you out as much as you hope. It'll be good for nostalgic purposes, but little else, because the scientific names as well as the common names likely no longer exist. So when you're trying to do additional research, you're going to have a hard time finding what species the book is talking about online. Further, when we're talking about edibility, because let's face it, most people that are here and trying to get into this hobby are doing so because they want to either eat mushrooms or consume them for medicinal purposes. Edibility information has changed over the last couple decades, even the last couple of years. Some of the mushrooms that we commonly ate and even considered to be delicacies are now known to have toxins that have a long latency period in terms of their effects. We couldn't really determine that these mushrooms were toxic before because they take a long time to do anything to your body. Some of these have actually proven to be lethal. Two examples that occur in Saskatchewan would be the yellow night, which is Trichoderma equestre, and the brown roll rim mushroom, Paxillus involutus. So, and those aren't the only two either. There's actually several of them. And older books will list these as choice mushrooms that you want to be looking out for when you really don't. On the other hand, some mushrooms that we once believed to be dangerous to consume are now known to be edible and to be choice edibles. A great example would be anything in the Verpa genus, which shared the common name of false morel with some very lethal species, and as a result they were also considered to be lethal. Now they are known not to be. So the second thing that you want to be looking out for is a book that is specific to your region, and here's where the bad news comes in. Books that cover every possible species are going to be very difficult for you to navigate because you're going to be looking at thousands and thousands and thousands of species. And you really don't need to know what's growing in Japan to go mushroom picking in Saskatchewan. So, unfortunately, Saskatchewan is considered to be a bit of a gray area in terms of what actually grows here. So, a lot of the authors of these field guides that you see, a lot of these mycologists, when they're talking about the Pacific Northwest or Western North America, that group of mushrooms that they're talking about ends at the Rocky Mountains. So it doesn't include Saskatchewan. We may consider ourselves part of the West, but most books, when they say Pacific Northwest or Western Canada or Western North America, they end at the Rockies. So they end in Alberta. Books and authors who deal with Eastern North America really don't talk about anything further west than the Manitoba-Ontario border. And that leaves Saskatchewan and Manitoba in this sort of gray zone, whereas the authors talking about the West consider Saskatchewan part of the East. The authors talking about the East consider Saskatchewan part of the West. So that becomes a bit of a problem. And To further complicate things, there hasn't been a whole lot of study put forth as to what even occurs here species-wise. So a lot of the species that are here may very well be undocumented or unnamed at this point. Anybody who has gone searching online has noticed a web page put forward by the University of Regina that has a big long list of species. A lot of those species don't actually occur here. They were more guesses than anything else. And a lot of those species don't actually even occur in North America. So finding a book that is specific to your region is really difficult to do. I will point out one to you shortly, because there is one that I've noticed. You want a book that includes color photos as well as written descriptions. Anything in black and white is not going to help you very much, except for maybe giving you a general idea of the shape of the mushroom, right? You want a book that is well reviewed. There's a whole lot of books out there that aren't well reviewed, or that are just plain garbage, or they're made for maybe children, or who knows. And you want a book that makes sense for you. If you're just out to pick mushrooms for culinary purposes and science really isn't your thing, you don't want to go through a whole bunch of scientific jargon that you can't follow. And vice versa. If you're really deep into the science, you don't want something that's very layman in those terms. The first book that I think is worth looking at is on the right there, the National Audubon Society Field Guide to Mushrooms. It's a popular one. Another two that are considered to be almost like the holy grails of mushrooms for mushroom pickers and mushroom enthusiasts are Mushrooms Demystified and All That the Rain Promises and More by David Aurora. Don't let the creepy guy with the trombone scare you away. And then the one in the middle there, it's not the biggest book. It doesn't have a huge selection of species. That's Mushrooms of the Boreal Forest. Is important if you want to get a book specific to Saskatchewan, because it's the only one I know of. All of the pictures in this book were taken in Prince Albert National Park. So every picture you look at is in Saskatchewan. Makes it for a very good comparison. So, what else can we do? Well, turns out that websites have surpassed in many ways what books have to offer. Here's a list of some excellent websites. Mushroom Expert is by far the best. And what makes websites so good is that information, as it changes, can be updated almost in real time. As I was making these presentations, certain names of certain mushrooms changed while I was making these presentations. So that's how quickly these changes occur. You go to the same site 2 days in a row and you could see that name has changed. So Mushroom Expert is a great one to go to. It's my favorite by far. First Nature is really good, but it only applies to Britain. However, British mushrooms, a lot of those mushrooms tend to occur here as well, or very similar species. So a good site to visit. The MycoWeb and Microquebec are both good. MycoWeb is from California. Again, a lot of those mushrooms occur here. And Microquebec, almost everything that occurs in Saskatchewan also occurs in Quebec. So the Microquebec lists every single species known to Quebec and has multiple entries with multiple photos. Very good site. Ultimate Mushroom, very good. iNaturalist is good for one purpose, and that is because it is a site where people list where they've found certain species. So if you want to know if a species occurs in Saskatchewan, chances are if somebody's found it here and uses this site, they will have listed there, and you'll see a red dot in Saskatchewan and Fungi Kingdom. So you can check those out on your own. Now, how can I get an accurate ID? You'll need to do some things. You will need to photograph the mushroom first and foremost. If you're not taking your camera with you, you're just not going to be able to ID it later on. You will need to smell the mushroom while it's fresh. You will need to pick the mushroom. There is this idea that some people put forth that if I'm not going to eat it, why would I pick it? Well, if you don't pick it, then you're not going to ID it properly. Plain and simple. You're not actually hurting the fungus. The fungus, as we talked about before, lives deep underground, or else it lives deep within a piece of wood or other sort of environment. It is not the mushroom itself. In fact, picking that mushroom will cause it to fruit again, that fungus, and it will cause it to fruit even more heavily. You're not going to damage the mycelium. There's way more mycelium than you could damage, except with anything like a backhoe. Like maybe then you could damage it, but you're not going to do it by picking a mushroom, and you're not going to deprive anything of food because there are more mushrooms than you'll ever see in the forest. So sorry for that little ramble. You're going to need to note the habitat and the trees nearby. So don't just focus on the mushroom. You need to know what trees you're growing around and what it's growing off of, that kind of thing. And you're going to need to ask more experienced pickers questions. Don't be shy. Go online, ask questions. There's no stupid questions when it comes to staying safe. And finally, you're going to need to research a whole bunch. And that's the fun part of it. You got to love research. So let's go mushroom picking. You're going to need to bring a camera or phone. Like I said, you need those photos. You're going to need something to use as a size reference. You can use your hand. You can use a coin. A clear ruler is my favorite because you can set it next to a mushroom and there's just no lying as to what you're looking at. You're going to need a pocket or mushroom knife so that you can bisect certain mushrooms, cut them in half, or to clean them properly. On the right there, you see what is a mushroom knife. It's got a little brush on the end and it's curved inwards. It's a folding knife. You can order them online. They're cute. You're going to need some bug spray. Like, I don't like to tell people what to bring when they're hiking because I'm not a survivalist. I make no claims of being one. But I've been in situations where I just simply can't bear to take 9 or 10 photos of a mushroom because I'm being eaten alive by mosquitoes. And you're going to need something to carry those mushrooms in. Cloth, paper, net bags. Those are great. They do smush certain types of mushrooms like rosellas. I wouldn't want to put a rosella in a bag. That's a brittle gill. If you know what I'm talking about, you know they're like chalk. They just break apart. Those are better for a pail. What you don't want to put them in is a plastic bag because that will cause mushrooms to suddenly decay very rapidly. And there will be times where you put them in a plastic bag, it's a hot day, you get back to the car, you look in and everything's mush. That's how fast they will decay in a plastic bag. They need to be able to breathe. So here are the photos that we're going to need to take, and some will be additional, but these are the photos that I strongly suggest you take in order to get an accurate ID, either going through books later on your own or posting them online on a forum for other people to look at. Without these, your reliability of the ID is going to decline significantly. None of these photos are mine, of course. Just a note as well for all the other presentations I do, they're photos from online, they're not my own. So this first photo that you will need to take is an in-focus angled medium shot of the mushroom in nature. It needs to show its position in the environment before you picked it. Okay, if you pick it and just hold it in your hand, I don't know how it was growing from the ground or the wood or whatever it may have been on. So that's the first photo that you need. It's necessary. The second will be of the cap or the fruiting body. We have 2 photos there, and you want this to be angled if possible so that you can see the contours. You don't want it straight down because then you lose that 3-dimensionality, and we don't really get the margin or any sort of scaling or any sort of dips or lumps in the same way if we're looking straight down on it. This has to be done in natural lighting as well. And by that I mean outside. Next, you will need a side shot of the full mushroom. And by full mushroom, that includes the base of the stipe, as well as the ring zone area and the margin of the cap. You can see here on the left-hand side, that's an amanita. There are several amanitas that look very similar to each other. The only real difference is the vulva around the base. So you will need that. As well, there are certain mushrooms where just that kind of like change in color where the mycelium starts, you will need that. So when you just pluck it halfway up, that's no good. You will need a close-up in focus shot of the underside of the cap, including the area where the underside meets the stipe. Okay, so you can see there on the left-hand side, you see those gills. You can see the short gills, and you can see the spacing of the gills. Very important. You can also see how those gills attach to the stipe. And if you remember, that's one of the ways, those are several ways in which we determine what species we're looking at. Then on the right, we have one that's, again, with teeth. If we didn't see the underside, we may not know that that's a toothed mushroom. Extreme close-ups of significant features. So I'll go through some significant features for you. For example, on the left-hand side, we have close-ups of gills, or of pores, sorry. And we can see from those pores that they are angled, and I could basically tell you right now that this is a Sewillis species. On the right-hand side, we have the tips of corals. Corals, again, there are many white corals in Saskatchewan. Their tips are the primary difference in how to determine if this is Artemioxys pyxidades, which it is, or a toxic Ramaria species. We have extreme close-ups of, on the left-hand side, the latex coming out of a damaged milk cap. So you see that liquid there. We can determine better what species of milk cap this is, depending upon what color that latex turns, or that it is in fact a milk cap because there is latex. On the right-hand side, we see gills taken from a sawgill mushroom, or a train wrecker, and those gills we know are from a sawgill because they're serrated like a saw, and the close-up has revealed that. We have an annulus on the left-hand side, a skirt like annulus, and on the right-hand side we have a ring zone, and we have the fibers from a cortna, so we know automatically that that's in the Cortinarius genre or genus and could be fairly toxic. We will need a full shot of a lateral bisection. I put this as necessary, but really it's only necessary until you know which mushroom specifically it's necessary for. That will make more sense when we go through the field mushroom section and the puffball section. So on the right-hand side, that is an Amanita egg. That could be lethally toxic. If you were to look at that before it was bisectioned, it would look an awful lot like a puffball. By cutting it in half, we know it's not. In the middle, that's is called a yellow stainer. You see how it's staining at the yellow base there. It's changed color after being dissected. So we know that that's not a common field button mushroom, like a common button mushroom from the store or related in the edible sense. And then on the left-hand side, we know that's a true morel instead of one of the thimble morels or early morels from the Verpa genus. You will need a size reference. Like I said, a coin is a great size reference. A hand is a great size reference. That ruler right there tells us exactly how many inches or centimeters this is going to be. So if you take a close-up shot of a tiny little mushroom and that's all we have to go on, and the mushroom looks like it's the size of someone's head, we're just never going to get close to what it actually is. A medium in focus shot of the host tree. I put this as additional, but this is really helpful for us to know, because if you don't know your trees and you're like, you know what, it was growing under a poplar when in fact it was growing under a birch, then that makes all the difference. In the middle, you can see a dead tree. There are many species that will only attack specific type of decaying wood as well. On the right-hand side, we see that there's a pile of feces. If there's feces all around, or dung all around the mushroom, that's a good indication of what that mushroom was eating, and will narrow it down significantly. We want a medium or long shot of the mushroom grouping. So the mushroom in relation to other members of its own species. You can see on the left there's a clumping mushroom. If you just pick one of those and take a shot of that single mushroom, and we don't know that it was growing in a clump like that, that's going to take a lot longer to ID. On the right-hand side, I can guarantee you that that's a fairy ring mushroom, in good part because it's growing in a fairy ring and because of how it's shaped. We will need a medium shot of age differences if you can provide it. That's not always the case, so I put that as additional. So if you see one that's, right at the end of its life, one that's just popping up, Stick them side by side, and that way we can determine better through the differences that it goes through its life cycle. If you do spore prints, that's a great thing to include to get down to genus, not usually species. A lot of people, when they're brand new and they're trying to give others advice, they'll say, you can't tell anything without a spore print. Actually, a spore print isn't that important to people that know what they're talking about or what they're looking at. But it can help with new people to determine what genus you're looking at. If you're going to do a spore print, the best way to do it is on a piece of glass, in my opinion. Other people will disagree, but a piece of glass, you can put that over any background. If your mushroom has white spores and you do it on a white piece of paper, you've just wasted a lot of time. A piece of glass, however, you can just wipe it down when you're done and reuse it. When you photograph that spore print as well, if you're going to include it for online suggestions, make sure you take it outside and do it in natural lighting. Things other than photos. The odor is very necessary. Okay, there's a lot of mushrooms that have very distinctive odors. Some will smell like anise seed or black licorice. Some will smell like cooked shellfish. Some of the brittle gills, for instance, it'll be very hard to determine what they are without knowing that. Some will smell like radishes, particularly some of the very toxic ones. And there's 10, 20 different odors. Anything you can imagine is going to occur in the mushroom world. Taste and spit. I don't like to tell people what to put in their mouths, okay, because that's up to you. If you don't feel comfortable with it, that's fine. But you can put a piece of even the most toxic mushroom, even a death cap, in your mouth for 30 seconds, taste it, then spit it out. It's only toxic if you ingest it. So if you don't swallow it, it's fine. And there are some groups of mushrooms where there are so many that look the same macroscopically that tasting it is the only actual way to tell. Like brittle gills, the Rossella genus is notorious for this. So some different flavor profiles. Hot and peppery, that's very common. There's a lot of hot peppery mushrooms in Saskatchewan. I love them. Some people can't take them, but I love them. Citrusy, lemon-like, even the taste of a button mushroom can really help determine what species we're looking at, if you can provide that information. The tactile sensation when you run your hand over the cap or the stipe, like is it slimy? Is it smooth? Is it like a rope, like got that fibrous feel, texture? Is it lumpy? Does it like velvet? Its durability. When you hold it in your hand, is it extremely, surprisingly light for the size that it is? Is it very heavy? Does it crumble easily? Is it almost like surprisingly difficult to break in half? Does it have like the flexibility of a dandelion stalk? That kind of information can help. The habitat type. This is necessary. What habitat are you in? Very different mushrooms grow in the prairies than grow in the, say, mixed forests or even the boreal forests or swampland or the cities. We need that information. Additional habitat features. If you notice anything, anything at all, there's no stupid observations, include it in your observation. So forest fires, for instance, there's a lot of mushrooms that grow more often after a forest fire. There are several mushrooms that are symbiotically associated with certain types of moss. So if you see a lot of moss where the mushroom is, note that, photograph it. A lot of mushrooms will only grow where soil has been disturbed, such as along the sides of a man-made path. Again, so whatever you see, let us know. The geographical location and date is necessary. So if you're not wanting to give up where you are in Saskatchewan, well, it's really hard to help you. And as well, if you photograph a mushroom in June, but then post it online for an ID in September, we need to know that it was taken in June, because mushrooms are very seasonal, very specific. So some common ID problems to go through here. I like that little guy there. I can't ID your mushroom. Can you ID this person? Well, no, you can't. The worst, out of focus cameras. People are so proud of the mushroom they took when in fact they just took a picture of the collar of their sleeve there. If I can't count the gills, I don't know what mushroom I'm looking at. I know what that is on the right hand side, but if I was further south where there's numerous Romaria species, I wouldn't. Super long shots. Now, if this is one of many photos and it's just to represent the tree or the environment, or where it's growing in relation to a tree, that's great. But other than that, all I see is there may be a fungus there somewhere. Excessive damage or decay. What is this hunk of junk that you're holding? Well, it probably was a mushroom at some point. Beyond that, an agaric, that's all I can really tell you. On the right hand side, if you're posting photos that you've already chopped up or throwing into your stew, don't really know what you're doing there. Busy shots. What the hell is this? The middle one, I can see mushrooms. The other two, I don't know, some sort of expressionist art. I don't know what I'm looking at. So, keep things clear there. If you need to arrange the environment a little bit, do so. Indoor lighting is a particularly annoying pet peeve of mine. I took this one online. It had the caption, the blue ones are interesting. Okay. When you photograph mushrooms inside, you really start to notice how indoor lighting gives things a sepia tone. Now you can white balance your camera. If you can do that, if you know how to do all that stuff, great. If not, photograph it in natural lighting, because I have no idea about the different species here. It's all brown. And that goes for spore prints just as much. If you are photographing a white spore print inside, now you have a sepia spore print, and that's a very different mushroom. Straight down shots. We already mentioned this once. What you don't know is that one of these mushrooms has a hump on it and the other one has a dip. Which is which? You've lost the three-dimensional quality of that cap by shooting it straight down. The contours are gone. Multiple species. This also goes for a post. If you're going to post 18 species in one post, that can get very confusing when somebody's answering what species they see. If there are multiple species in the same shot, well, consider one of those were toxic and one of those were edible, and you're like, which is edible? Well, what do you want me to do? Like, take the photo and draw a red circle around the edible one? Just be a bit more conscientious of that. Moving on. So in Saskatchewan, we have 2 Facebook communities, and they have slightly different aims. These are about mushroom picking in Saskatchewan, or mycology in Saskatchewan. So Saskatchewan mushroom picking. This seeks to be a community of hobbyists who enjoy or want to learn more about mushrooms and mushroom picking as a hobby. That's what I'm making these videos for, primarily. Saskatchewan Mycological Working Group, slightly different. This is a part of the Native Plant Society through the University of Saskatchewan, and their aim is towards expanding the education of mycology throughout the province and establishing as best they can which species actually occur in Saskatchewan. Both of these groups will allow you to post your photos of the mushroom, and will give you, as best people can, ideas as to what species you're looking at. And there are many ID groups online as well. Some will have 20 or 30,000 people on it. It's just the ones in Saskatchewan are a bit more local and are a bit less busy. So some online etiquette for you. No pic shaming. Pic shaming is a huge pet peeve of mine and other people serious about this hobby. That is where you imply that someone else who has posted something online has acted inappropriately by picking a mushroom. Mushrooms are fruiting bodies. It's like the apple being picked from a tree. in no way harms the organism. It actually helps the organism. And this has been proven through multiple studies. Further, without picking that mushroom, you're not IDing a mushroom. So don't give somebody crap for trying to do what this whole hobby is about. No microphobia. Microphobia is a big thing in Western culture here. It is the idea that picking, eating, or interacting with wild mushrooms presents an undue risk of harm. Well, you know what? No more so than swimming or skydiving, right? If you don't know how to swim, don't jump in the deep end. Well, some mushrooms are dangerous or even lethal upon ingestion. This should warrant healthy respect for both. I can't count the amount of times where I've told someone that, my hobby is picking wild mushrooms, and they're like, do you know how dangerous that is? And all I can say is far more so than you. Mushrooms and the amount of knowledge and time required to accurately ID a mushroom species is significant, so you should respect that ability. And if you want to gain that ability, you do so through research and learning, not through fear. Present your ID appropriately. Or your ID in terms of IDing somebody else's mushroom that they've submitted online. Don't guess. If you're not sure, but you have an idea as to what you're looking at, phrase it as, try so-and-so, or perhaps it's this. Don't be, it's definitely this, when you don't actually know. If someone else presents an ID that contradicts your own, do not take offense because it's somebody's health on the line. Rather, explain why you feel your idea is correct, and do this after actually taking a look for a second time, just to make sure that you're not wrong. Do not suggest dangerous activity. I am all about making inappropriate jokes. Anybody who actually has me on Facebook knows that, but not when it comes to mushrooms. If somebody posts a death cap and it says, is this edible? Don't be like, ha ha, take a bite and find out. Because you know what? It's not just that person you're putting at risk. It's any of the hundreds of other people that may be on that site who see that comment and that photo and associate the two together and then go mushroom picking themselves. It's just not the place for it, and I have no tolerance for it. Do not engage in illegal activity. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I'm not about to shame anybody for doing hallucinogenic mushrooms or psychoactive mushrooms. I don't care, but don't sell drugs on the Facebook groups, because that's where that has actually gotten other groups shut down in the past. Discussing them, don't really care. Selling, yeah, get out of here. Your safety is your responsibility, not mine, not the guy who made an ID, yours. So when you receive that idea, it is not a guarantee, it is a suggestion. It is up to you through your own research to determine if a mushroom is safe to eat. And the results that come afterwards, there is no liability but your own. Keep it relevant. These are mushroom groups and specific to Saskatchewan. We should try to keep it that way. I don't mind talking about, like mushrooms in general, all that kind of stuff. But for instance, if you're posting Donald Trump memes, not here, please. Just keep it relevant. And that's it. I apologize if it seemed a little lecturely, but yeah. Anyways, tune in again. This is the Mushroom Wizard, and I'll have more videos for you soon.